Morning, everybody. The WA Planning Commission meeting of Wednesday, the 20th of February 2026. The meeting is being recorded and live streamed and is available for viewing via the Commission's website and YouTube. Commission members may refer to technical devices throughout the meeting to assist them in their deliberations. And I'd like to start by acknowledging that we're meeting on the lands of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation and pay our respects to elders past and present. We have all members attending today, and we do have Commissioner Lakey joining us online. Good morning. And Commissioner Bennett has requested a leave of absence for the 9th to the 19th of July and 24th through to 6th for 2026. Thank you for the notice. Yes. Disclosures of interest. In relation to item 4.2, the MRS amendment for Lake Farm Retreat Urban Precinct, Commissioner Brooks has declared a perceived impartiality interest in that Commissioner Brooks's employer, Urbaqua, is engaged by DPLH to provide water management reporting for the Hepburn East site. You could accept that as reality if it's consistent with the board.
Yes.
Thank you. On the same item, Commissioner Bennett has declared a direct pecuniary interest in that Commissioner Bennett's employer CL the Land Group on other projects. And we'll leave the meeting. Thank you very much. On item 4.3, the MRS amendment for North Ellenbrook, Commissioner Bennett has declared a direct pecuniary interest in Commissioner Bennett's employer CLE other proposed. Leaving the meeting. Thank you. On the same item, Commissioner Adair has declared a perceived impartiality interest in that Commissioner Adair's previous employer, Satterley Property Group, is a major developer in the subject land. In her role at that time, she was directly involved in the acquisition and development planning for the land. Commissioner Adair has not been involved since leaving Satterley, however, is opting not to participate in the determination of this item and will accept. Thank you. On same item, 0.3, Commissioner Sandry received impartiality interest. Commissioner Sandry's employer owns 800 Cooper Road, 916 Cooper Road, Bullsbrook, and is under contract for 927 Cooper Road, Bullsbrook. These properties are not within the proposed amendment area. They do not adjoin the area, but are in proximity. Commission members, I'm happy to accept that as a impartiality, given it's not a proximity interest. Would that be comfortable for everybody? On item 4.6, the position statement, purpose, building, accommodation, engagement, outcomes and final approval, Commissioner Bennett has declared a direct pecuniary interest in that they assisted Curtin University in their submission on the position statement, and Commissioner Bennett will leave the meeting. On the same item 4.6, Commissioner Sandry has declared a perceived impartiality interest in that Commissioner Sandry's partner works at the City of Melville and they have provided a submission on this item. However, Commissioner Sandry's partner has had no dealings. Members, I'm happy to accept this impartiality consensus. Yep. Yes, thank you. On item 4.7, the Planning and Development Regulations amendments, Commissioner Bennett has declared a perceived impartiality interest in that Commissioner Bennett, member of UDIA WA Council, and UDIA made a submission on the regulations during advertising. Commissioner Bennett was not involved in the preparation of the submission and will remain if agreed. Members, is there any issue with that? Thank you. You're able to stay. On the same item, Commissioner Sandry has declared a perceived impartiality interest in that Commissioner Sandry is a commissioner at the City of Nedlands who provided a response, but she has had no involvement in the response. Also happy to accept that as perceived impartiality unless there's any objection. Thank you. On the same item, Commissioner Sandry has also declared that she's a member of the Planning Institute of Australia who have provided a submission on this item. Commissioner Sandry was not involved in the preparation of their submission. That probably cuts across quite a few of us, so that also affects myself. Yes, so anyone who's a member of the can. Thank you. Has anyone been involved in the peer submission? I think that whilst the effect says I think we take partial. And on the same item, Commissioner Sandry has also declared that she's employed by the City of Bayswater, who provided a response, but she has not had any dealings with this response. Members on this one, is there any concerns at Bayswater? Okay, and not had any involvement in the response? Happy to accept as impartiality? Okay, much. Members, are there any other declarations of interest? Thank you very much. On disclosures representation, I do have two. The first is in relation to item 4.1, Morris Amendment for the Martin Urban. I have met with the proponent in the normal course of my duty as chairperson of the WAPC, and I have not been provided with any additional information that's not available to commission members. And on item 4.3, the MRS amendment for North Ellenbrook East. Also, I have met with the proponent on this item in the members, are there any other disclosures of representation? Okay, thank you very much. Question of consideration. Can all members please indicate that they have received the agenda meeting? Thank you very much all. And additional information for members, just noting that there has been questions provided and that they can be further fleshed out as we go to the items. Now moving to confirmation of previous minutes. In relation to the minutes of Wednesday, 20th January, Commissioner Bennett did spot that under item 3.1, the Pickering Brook town site expansion item, under the recommendation, it does have words put and carried, which will need to be deleted. The rest of the item is minuted as per the deliberation, which basically after the month deferral. So if we can just that's with removal of the put and carried for item under the recommendation, that will be a correct sort of the discussion. Are there any other issues to raise in relation to the minutes of 28th of January? Thank you. Could I have a mover and seconder for the minutes? Moved by Commissioner Bennett, seconded by Commissioner Adair. Any dissent? Thank you. They are carried. And then we have the minutes of the 12th of February 2026 meeting. Any matters to raise? Thank you. If I could have a mover and seconder. Moved by Commissioner Adair, seconded by Commissioner Pitts. Thank you. They are carried. So we'll now move to deputations and presentations, and Sam Boucher, I'll leave it to you from here. Thank you.
I welcome everyone that is present this morning in order to make a deputation. You will be invited to join the table this morning or promoted to a panelist via Zoom deputation. You have been advised for allocated time, which will and a time on the screen, which will manage that time. If you do have a PowerPoint presentation this morning, this will be displayed out your deputation, and you're requested to advise as you wish to advance the slides. So moving to the first deputation on the agenda this morning, which is item 4.1 on the agenda, which is the MRS amendment for the Martin Urban Precinct, the pre-lodgement advice request, and we're welcoming Neil Teo and Jens Weinman to the table this morning. We have them. Oh, sorry, my apologies, they're by Zoom. Sorry. Crosses the piece of paper.
That's okay.
Jen,
I'll just confirm with her. I think
she declared on that. That was like fun.
good morning. Neil, can you hear us? Can we just take that down for a second until we've confirmed that we've got them?
Good morning. It's Neil Teo here. Can you hear me?
I can. We can't see you on our screen. If you do,
Right. Let me.
I think that's coming up now.
Okay, great.
There we go. We can see you there. Are you being joined by Jen Weinman this morning?
No, it's just myself from my office.
All right, wonderful. We'll bring up your PowerPoint presentation and invite you to come at your deputation. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, for the warm introduction, and thank you for this deputation. I'm confident that your officers have written a thorough report, so I'll focus really on the main issues. Next slide, please. We're dealing here today with a MRS pre-lodgement request for this area in Martin, which is about 50 hectares. Our client, I'll simply refer to as the Goss family. They're the owners of the 3 lots highlighted in green on your screen. At this stage of the pre-lodgement request, we haven't liaised with any other neighbouring landowners in this parcel, and we haven't to date done any serious technical investigations. We're really looking for a signal from today's meeting as to the merit of this pre-lodgement request. Next slide, please. So that's the area you can see there. The Goss family, they're not commercial developers by any chance. They're just a landowner in this area. They've had other land in the city of Gosnells before and have done a few subdivisions here and there. So I think in that regard, again, I repeat, they're not a regular commercial developer. Next slide, please. The sub-regional planning framework identifies I'll just say the western portion as the area for urban expansion. Our understanding is that eastern section has been left as rural under the sub-regional planning, mainly due to one, the Ellis Brook, which runs through the centre of that red cell on your screen, and also a historic quarry buffer, which until recent times in early 2025, when we were liaising with some of the authorities, it's confirmed that the operations of that the quarry and the buffer that it's associated with has moved further to the northeast and is now away from this cell of land. Next slide, please. As you can see, that's a 900-metre buffer radius, which the licence operates from the existing quarry. And you can see geographically it sits outside of the area that we're looking to amend the MRS. Next slide, please. I'll just focus on some of the main pre-lodgement referral authority comments. Probably the big one from our end is the Water Corporation have come back and expressed a non-objection, and importantly, they've advised that the services are ready and available in that area to extend. So, from a land supply timing issue, to us that's a really big win. So we're quite encouraged by that referral from Water Corp. Next slide, please. DEMAS, as I mentioned before, they've come back with a non-objection in regard to the quarry buffer. So to us, that's a big tick as to probably where the planning framework has previously identified that eastern section as rural, and we see that there's a lot of logic for that eastern section to be included in a MRS amendment to urban.
Neil, just to let you know that, sorry, it's Emma speaking to you, just to let you know you have got your 3 minutes. If you don't know that you're going to have time to go through all of the referral comments, but we do have the benefit of your presentation here included in our agenda package.
Okay. No problem. Look, I'm happy to wrap it up and open for questions if you'd like to ask any.
Was there anything from your concluding statement that you wanted to put?
Really just to say, look, we're happy to do the exercise of the further planning and all the technical studies. That's at the cost of the Goss family. We're keen to liaise with the Department of Education about any school sites needed for this cell, and liaise with other landowners should there be merit in where this goes.
Thanks very much, Neil, and thanks for your detailed presentation. That's helpful.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for Neil? Go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation, Neil. I just want to check with you, and I fully appreciate that your client doesn't have an extensive landholding in the area. However, the inclusion of the remaining portion of the land, which was actually identified as urban expansion, would there be openness to perhaps include that? Because I understand that is actually developed at the moment for a retirement or age complex. It's ultimately in urban form, whether that might be considered to be included as part of your amendment.
Thank you for the question. Look, we've drawn a line in the sand around that red cell of land, simply as it's where the roads had basically stopped and started. I wouldn't see any issue in it extending that additional bit of urban expansion that's been identified into the MRS amendment. It's consistent with the framework.
Thank you.
Yeah. Commissioner Sandry.
Thank you, and thank you, Neil, for the deputation. So just to confirm, Has the department communicated with you what the additional studies might be, and you're okay with all of them?
Thank you for the question. I wouldn't say there's been specific advice in terms of the additional suite of studies. I mean, from our expectation, we're talking district water management strategies, the whole box and dice which goes with DSPs or MRS amendments, hydrology studies, traffic, economic, etc.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, anything further? Commissioner Brooks?
Yeah, thanks for the deputation. The other part of the requirement for additional studies, particularly in relation to the Ellis Brook, will be getting access to the land to undertake investigations, so that a biophysical assessment can be completed for the waterway itself to set aside a foreshore reserve. That's going to require, a bit more consultation with the other landowners. Has that been factored into your understanding of the next steps?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yes, it has. We do have 3 lots which back onto the Ellis Brook, and some of the existing parts of the brook are actually already in reserves that are vested to the city for management. So we do have quite good access. I mean, in terms of getting more access, that's something that we would have to liaise with the other landowners in that area. We simply just haven't got to that stage yet of the exercise.
Anything further, commissioners? Thank you, Neil. Appreciate your deputation today.
Thank you very much.
The next deputation this morning is item 4.2 on the RS Amendment 141 for the Retreat Urban Precinct, and we're welcoming you via Zoom. Good morning, Ian. Can you see and hear us?
I can hear you. I couldn't see if that works. There we go.
And we can see and hear you now. Welcome to the Western Australian Commission this morning, Ian. You have 3 minutes for your deputation this morning. Over to you when you're ready. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity to make the deputation on Lake Farm Retreat. Due to the confidential nature of the report, obviously you don't know if the decision of City of Swan Council meeting on the 12th of November has been included. We assume that it has been, but we do wish to reiterate Part B of that determination, in that the land affected by the resource enhancement wetland, as described in the EPA's referral response, i.e. that is the wedge to the west end of the concept land, should be reserved as regional open space to ensure protection and the continuation of the wetland ecosystem. The resource enhancement wetland is clearly connected and forms part of the adjoining conservation category wetland directly to the north. And the EPA's expectations is that the ecological values and function be retained. The city therefore requests that this important wetland be included in regional open space to ensure its long-term protection. Thank you for this opportunity, and happy to take any questions if there are any.
Leon, thank you very much for your deputation. Oh, Ian, sorry. My
That's all right.
apologies, Ian. We were expecting Leon.
All good.
Thank you, Ian, for being here today. Members, are there any questions of Ian? Yes, go ahead. Joel.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Ian, for your presentation. Just curious to understand from your perspective, if it wouldn't be better to, through more detailed local planning, define that boundary, and that boundary wouldn't be as informed now as it would be following further detailed planning?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the environmental reports have been done. We've got the comments of the EPA to say how important that wetland is. Our concerns is that if it's not picked up at this stage now, when we are doing the MRS amendment, and have the opportunity to introduce that regional open space and to identify up that hierarchy, then that opportunity may be missed. That's my concern.
But you do acknowledge that there are further steps in the planning process for the land.
Absolutely. Yeah, we do acknowledge that, but obviously it would seem odd to us to then have an MRS currently active where that could be added in. We then move into urban, and then we would then have to go back and do a further MRS and then to put that regional open space in. So it just seems as if an extra step is being added.
Get through the chair. So, and just so I can be clear, your view is that it should be reserved under the MRS as regional open space as opposed to necessarily set aside as any structure planning process. Is that in relation to, at least in part, also the management and care and maintenance for that particular area, as well as, I suppose, its designation in terms of open space?
I guess in part that will be also part of it. The city obviously, because due to its environmental value, obviously it should really go to the area of expertise of where that sits. Handing it over to a local government with minimal kind of expertise in that area and resources to do so is probably might be seen as overreach.
Through the chair, if I may, and although point taken, I can assure you the WAPC has extensive amounts of wetland areas, but it is, I suppose, expected that the City of Swan must have wetlands and environmental areas under its care and control at the moment. Is that a fair assumption?
It does have some, absolutely, but I guess it also takes into consideration the amount of the 10% undeliverable neighbourhoods and what is the expectation within that 10% of public open space. There's obviously the 2% dispensation. But I can imagine if you look at this development as a whole, once you add in this area plus, then it would obviously exceed that 2% as well.
Understood. Thank you.
Members, anything further? Well, thank you, Ian, for your deputation today.
Thank you.
Deputation on the same item, we're welcoming Matthew Philov from Land Group WA. If you'd like to join us at the table, Matthew. Over to you when you're ready. Thanks.
Good morning, Chair, Deputy Chair and Commissioners. Thank you for your time this morning. Today I speak on behalf of Land Group WA in support of Amendment 1441, which is item 4.2 on today's agenda. Across to the next slide. This really is a summary of some of the work and key milestones that we've achieved on this project over the last 18 months or so. What I should start by noting though is there's obviously a significant planning history that does predate this timeline. The Lake Farm Urban Precinct was identified as a planning investigation area back in 2018 in the Perth and Peel and Northeast Sub-Regional Planning Frameworks. It was then progressed to an urban expansion area in 2023 following some detailed investigations from the department. And it was relatively shortly after that that our involvement in the project began. So you can see that represented there by us lodging an MRS amendment in November of 2024, which was then initiated in May of 2025. There was a few environmental milestones that were achieved following that, one of which was the EPA determining not to assess or formally assess the proposal in August of 2025, and then the DWER providing endorsement for our district water management strategy in September of 2025. That then enabled us to get to public advertising, which for us was a really positive process. We didn't receive any objections to the proposal and really it was an overwhelming amount of support. So we were really pleased with the outcome of that. Probably happy to go to the next slide. I won't go through each of these, but really to achieve some of the milestones that we did just touch on, and particularly the environmental ones, Land Group did make a decision to sort of front end a lot of the technical reporting that we needed to do as part of this project, and probably to a level of detail that we wouldn't typically do for an MRS amendment. We're really happy that we made that decision. It enabled us to really articulate how we see an urban outcome unfolding on this land with a bit more confidence. But it also did allow us to get a little bit ahead of the curve, I suppose, from a planning perspective. And we've been able to meet with the department in early January to have a pre-lodgement meeting on our local structure plan. And obviously a positive outcome today, we're in a position to lodge that. I won't go through the 2 remaining slides. I'm happy to go through them in question time if of interest, but I will just finish by noting that it's our view that Amendment 1441 can be approved today, and probably for 3 main reasons. The first one is that it's consistent with the state strategic planning framework that I touched on earlier, that earmarked this site for an urban outcome in 2018. The second is that it is consistent with public drinking water source area policy and the relevant water protection notes that go along with that, as well as SPP 2.9, the current version that's made in force in December of last year. And lastly, just that we see this site as a pretty rare opportunity in today's market, in that it's not constrained by external services. It's not waiting on a wastewater pump station or significant power upgrades. It's actually something that we can deliver as soon as we're allowed to, I suppose, in that process. So we're excited to keep the momentum going and hopefully lodge a structure plan next month or as soon as we can, and take the next step forward in the planning process to get to construction. So thank you.
Thanks very much, Matthew. Appreciate your deputation. Members, are there any questions? Yes, go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, Matthew. Just a couple of things. I suppose one touching on the item that had been raised in relation to the regional open space for the wetland. The concept plan that has been prepared, is it fair to assume that the core wetland area has not been included in any EOS calculations?
Correct, yeah. Land Group's view on that, I suppose, is, we've looked at all of the land quite early on in the process, and our environmental reporting did tell us quite early on through our environmental assessment that was a resource enhancement wetland area, and the flora and fauna surveys that we did do were a testament to that as well. So the way that we've, if that's helpful, the way that we have treated it in the early concept plan that was included in this package is purely to respect the environmental values that parcel does bring. It's the last slide, yeah. We've also treated that with the standard 50-metre buffer to that as well, and none of that has been included in our public open space calculations. So we're delivering our 10% or over 10% aside of that, setting that aside. So it's our view that we're relatively comfortable either way.
Thank you. Through the chair, the other key factor that I'm mindful of is pedestrian access across Hepburn Avenue, given obviously that the residents here would need to access the other side for primary school and other services, and roundabouts perhaps particularly helpful in that space. Has consideration been given to that, or is that something you see being developed as part of the next stage of planning?
Because we're relatively progressed in structure planning, we have started to look at that more closely. So our traffic reporting has tested both outcomes in terms of a roundabout and traffic lights. From a traffic perspective, a roundabout does work better, but obviously we're conscious that from a pedestrian perspective, lights would probably be more desirable. That's something that we're, again, happy to go either way on, and would be guided by both the Commission and Main Roads, etc., through the local structure planning process. So we're comfortable either way.
Thank you very much. And sorry, finally, just one last one. In terms, obviously, the land to the east, which is obviously also going through a process, I'm assuming that there has been a strong liaison and looking at interface and relationship.
Yeah. So we've had multiple meetings with Phil Elliott, who is leading the structure planning, or the deconstraining, I suppose, if you will, of lot 810 to the east. We've compared notes, I suppose. We've showed our structure plan. He acknowledged, obviously, that they're quite a little bit further back in the process because they do have a significant amount of groundwater monitoring to do, and they probably are 18 to 24 months behind where we are in the process. So we're committed to obviously working with them throughout our local structure planning phase to ensure that the roads that we are providing to to tie in or work with their development are in a spot that they're comfortable with. But all reports thus far have been that they're very comfortable with the design of our early concepts, and so long as we keep working with them and collaborating along the journey, then they're happy to.
Thank you very much.
Anything else for Matthew? Yes, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Matthew. So the City of Swan have said they would rather land affected by the wetland to be regional open space rather than urban. Can I just confirm what's your view on that?
For us, look, we're relatively comfortable either way. We're not necessarily in a commercial relationship with that landowner, but we do have open lines of communication with them. We proposed an urban outcome across the whole parcel for cleanliness, but if it's the Commission's view that should be set aside as regional open space at this time, it's not something that we are concerned with or believe it should hold up the process more or less. We also probably do share the view that it is something that can be adequately addressed through the next stages of planning, but equally, if it's the Commission share the same view as the City that it should be addressed now, it's not something that we're overly concerned about.
Very much. Commission members, anything further? Matthew, appreciate your deputation.
The deputation this morning is on item 4.3 on the agenda, which is the MRS Amendment 1411 for North Ellenbrook East. And the first deputation on this item is from Swan Community Environment Alliance, and welcoming Jan Zek.
Morning.
Thanks.
Before I start, oh, good. Can you just roll it on 15 seconds?
Belinda, Belinda will take
Okay,
that for you.
Sorry, I have to swap glasses. Northeast Ellenbrook is located on duplex soils, thin sand overlying clay. The same geology existing in the southern Swan Growth Corridor. The difference, this site is much wetter. The most recent environmental assessment noted 25% of the site has groundwater at or above natural surface level. 50% is between ground level and 1 metre below, and the remainder is below 1 metre. We are already seeing significant problems in the south with rising groundwater, inundation and flooding associated with development in both new urban and adjacent properties. Data collected since 2015 has shown a rise in groundwater of 1.5 metres with an increasing trend over the annual cycle. Add another 1.5 metres to the amendment site, it will become a canal development. Rising groundwater in the south has already compromised drainage systems and risks jeopardising the structural stability of public and private infrastructure. Mature trees in wetlands preserved for their environmental significance are dying along with those retained in swales and tree pits. As a mechanism to retain trees, tree pits are a dismal failure. Whiteman Edge in Brabham, one of the first development sites and seminal for assessing the efficacy of drainage strategies for this area, has seen flooding for months, well after the rain stopped. The drainage swale has overtopped footbridges, and bulrushes, a sign of continuous inundation and excess nutrients, outcompete native plants intended to reduce pollutants. Maintenance of hydrological regime and pre-development groundwater levels, two fundamental drainage strategy objectives, have been thrown out the window because they are unachievable with current policies and practices. Basic knowledge of how to develop sustainably in areas of high groundwater is lacking. The government policy of infiltration applied across the metro area doesn't work here. It's failing due to underlying clay that won't let water move lower in the soil profile, resulting in huge amounts of water needing extraction from the soil. The problem is compounded by delivering into localised areas. Swan Council is so concerned about adverse impacts and being landed with responsibility for maintenance, finding solutions and associated costs, it has resolved not to support moves to progress urbanisation of 4 recent proposals located in areas of high groundwater. The first insurance claim regarding inundation due to urbanisation has been received by the city. Groundwater from the DSP site flows to the east directly towards Twin Swamps. Surface water, which currently flows to the Ellenbrook Nature Reserve in the southeast, will increase with urban development and become continuous, independent of seasons. These sites are the only habitats remaining on the planet for the western swamp tortoise, the most critically endangered reptile in the nation. Both sites will be irreparably damaged if development occurs under the present scenario. The infiltration policy needs rethinking. Workable solutions that are proven to deliver sustainable development need to be found before more land is rezoned. Thank you.
Jan, thank you very much for your deputation today and for your presentation. Members, are there any questions of Jan?
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. So in relation, you're saying that the infiltration component is the fundamental problem with the approach, is that?
Absolutely.
Okay, and in terms of the alternative scenario that you're suggesting should be, so you're suggesting it should be channeled to somewhere?
I'm not suggesting that. What I'm saying is that the state government and its agencies need to rethink that policy and find a better solution. I'm not a hydrologist. I don't know. All I know is that from the information that we've put together, the data we have collected over the last 10 years shows that it is not working. The government agencies who actually have employed that policy need to rethink that and find better solutions. I'm sure that there are better solutions, but someone else is responsible for that. They can't keep imposing exactly the same one and think that the problem will go away, because it's not.
Okay, thank you.
Members, any further questions for Jan? Jan, thank you very much. We
Thank you.
will, for these issues that you raised when we come to the item. Thank you.
The next deputation on the same item, item 4.3, we welcome Ingrid Mulder. Ingrid, would you like to join us at the table? Thank you.
Morning. The hydrology of the area located east of the Tonkin Highway is complex. It is of ecological importance and is not fully understood. Where the last dunes of the Brassendine Sand meet Guildford Clay, water is pushed to the surface, resulting in permanent springs or mound springs. Water flows to the east onto the floodplains of the Ellenbrook catchment area. Most of this area is seasonally and heavily inundated. It is a delicate area, and urbanisation on the scale outlined in the DSP will surely have an irreversible and devastating effect on the hydrological balance, especially to the springs and relatively unknown species they support and the catchment area which flows ultimately into the Swan River. Not only water volumes, but nutrient-rich runoff and sediment. The cumulative effect of high-density greenfield development, loss of tree canopy, and changes in land use in the broader area is leaving gaps in protection and monitoring of the environment. My concern is for the high chance of hydrological impact on the springs and the DSP area. To ensure the protection and health of the springs, including on Lot 8247, comprehensive on-site hydrological studies should be done to ensure the impacts on water quality and quantity are unaffected prior to any further progression towards urbanisation. Modifying the natural terrain to the west and changes in surface pressure from urbanisation can negatively impact springs and change the natural flow of surface and groundwater. This can lead to altered water levels, changes in water chemistry and connectivity of aquatic ecosystems, an increase or decrease in water levels and the effect on vegetation, changes in water chemistry from runoff carrying potential pollutants and sediment. Especially in a drying climate, our waterways need a guarantee of protection. I ask that more consideration and research be done before a recommendation to the Minister that this amendment be progressed. The DSP district is used by the Carnaby's black cockatoos and forest red-tailed black cockatoos for day and night roosting and foraging. Both species move throughout the area to forage and breed. Flocks regularly move through the area from Woyunga National Park in the east to Nangara Pine Plantation in the west, feeding on Banksia woodlands between. A substantial vegetation corridor through the DSP would ensure a higher level of protection, provide a food source, and be beneficial to other species.
Very much for your deputation today, Ingrid. We appreciate you joining us. Members, would you like to ask any questions of Ingrid? Thank you, Ingrid. We will raise these issues in discussion.
The next deputation this morning, also on item 4.3, will Lois Pearson via Zoom this morning. Morning, Lois. Can you see and hear us?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. We can hear you. If you do have video capabilities, it would be appreciated if you could.
Yeah, it might take a minute. We're on satellite up here, so it takes a while with satellite.
No worries. We can see you now. Welcome to the West Australian Planning Commission meeting. Over to you when you're ready. Thank you.
Hiya, Yaron. As West Australian land carers, because I'm representing our group who deeply care about our shared natural heritage, we are concerned that the West Australian funded multi-million-dollar wildlife bridge, which was celebrated as the jewel in the crown of our district, now faces urbanisation across the DSP area at a scale that risks undermining its very purpose. The 12-metre wide Allenbrook Wildlife Bridge, delivered by Main Roads, reconnects habitat severed by Tonkin Highway, linking the 350-hectare Lexia wetlands with the 150-hectare Morella Road Nature Reserve. Monitoring on this bridge confirms it is functioning as intended, with emus, quenda, reptiles and birds actively using the crossing. Understandably, the smaller Morella Road Reserve cannot alone realistically contain the volume and diversity of wildlife currently moving across this corridor, and it simply doesn't. Even now, fauna disperses beyond the Morella Reserve into the surrounding land, all of which is in the DSP area. These animals have moved across this broader landscape for decades, and those patterns are simply not going to disappear. They will increasingly intersect with human activity if this development proceeds at the proposed scale. Urbanisation across the DSP area, including the groundworks and sand backfilling that will occur, would have an irreversible and debilitating impact on this ecosystem. Clearing further Banksia woodland, including endangered swan coastal plain communities and vital black cockatoo foraging habitat, risks turning this vital ecological infrastructure into a pathway that delivers wildlife into conflict without sufficient refuge. We believe substantial existing habitat must be retained, especially the mature trees of all types, supported by very meaningful buffer zones. This idea of isolated trees just fragments and pockets, and it's not sustainable to survive wildlife. Nor should I add, should the West Australian people and the community volunteers be left to manage, once again, the consequences when wildlife and suburbia inevitably clash. Protecting substantial existing vegetation within this DSP area honours the original public investment and helps ensure the bridge remains a lasting conservation asset for West Australians, rather than just an ongoing source of tension.
Lois, it's Emma Cole, the Chair, speaking to you now. Thank you very much for your deputation today. I will now see whether questions are coming from any of our members. We don't have any questions from you, but we have taken note of your deputation and we will raise the issues that you have raised with us when we discuss the item. So thank you very much.
Next deputation this morning, also on 4.3 on the agenda, we're welcoming Tim Trefry and Danny Murphy. Back to the table. Thank you.
Good time today. I'll take the submission as read. I'll just hit the key points. If you could progress the next slide. The first slide really just shows the proximity of lots 29 and 30. The importance of it is it's adjacent to the Ellenbrook development, the final village Annie's Landing, where there is some spare capacity in the infrastructure services, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Next slide, please. What we're asking today is for consideration be given for lots 29 and 30 to be zoned urban under this amendment to urban, and also a concurrent amendment to residential development under the City of Swan Local Planning Scheme number 17. The reason being is the opportunity exists for us to deliver approximately 450 affordable residential lots based upon the existing services, with first lots potentially on the ground for the back end of 2027. We're all aware of the urgency and need for some supply, and we're just simply putting these two lots out there as an opportunity if the state wishes to take it up. We're not subject to the lifting of urban deferred requirements in the sense that wastewater and water services can be extended. The volume of traffic generated from the lots isn't big enough to warrant waiting for them to change. The existing road network can handle it. And the poultry farm and the plant nursery buffers don't apply to this land. Next slide, thanks. So what we've done is we've brought forward the technical studies and taken on-site inspections with the EPA and the DBCA. And what it's really around is that there's a grevillea population, which is in the southern area there. That links into an REW and a further REW wetland up in the northwest corner. What links all that is that light green is the habitat trees, black cockatoo, foraging, roosting and breeding trees are all picked up in the light green. And based upon feedback from the environment agencies, we've basically linked up the grevillea through the wetlands, through the roosting trees and all the way to the wetland in the northwest corner. So we've had one continuous piece of open space to be proposed. We're looking for those to be vested. The POS is only the light green, and the two wetlands and the grevillea we're looking to go into reserves to be taken on by in the City of Swan or DBCA. We've had some preliminary discussions, but we'd have to finalise those through the LSP process. So we've sort of brought those studies forward so there can be some meaningful sort of consideration of what we're looking to deliver in a short time frame. Next slide, please. Just quickly, servicing, as I've said, we've been working with Water Corporation and Western Power. There's some capacity in the Annie's Landing system. We know because we built it. The subsequent discussions are that there's some minor upgrades as we move through will adequately cater for the 450 lots. There's a capacity. The wastewater, I think the Water Corp said there's several hundred lots could go in the current wastewater system before upgrade. And Western Power said there's up to 1,000 lots in the current system that could be provided through 400. Servicings are available, and as I've said, traffic can be accommodated on the Ellenbrook road network. So we're simply saying to the state, we've got two lots, we've got services, we know that's capacity from the previous development we worked on. If the offers taken up, we can turn around an LSP very quickly, seeing the technical studies have already been completed to a large extent, and deliver some lots in 2027. But I'll hand over to Danny in terms of just that sort of timing.
So I'm aware of that timing. There'll only be 10 seconds, Chair. Thank you for your time. I represent the owners of lots 29 and 30, and just confirm to you we're able to deliver the lots in accordance with the timelines that Tim has outlined. Thank you.
Thank you. You say 2027. Can you be more specific?
It'll be second half of 2027. We've got to get, if the rezoning proposal is supported, we'll lodge an LSP fairly quickly. We've written a few up in this neck of the woods, so we know what to prepare. We'd lodge that in the City of Swan. That will take some time to get through the system, allowing for that subdivision application, but more construction. To be the construction, we're sort of first stages are taking around 20 weeks plus at the moment. So it would be the second half of 2027.
Okay, members, open to you for questions. Yes, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you for your presentation, Tim. Just in relation to, I suppose, are there any district or other level infrastructure which cost sharing arrangements need to be sorted through, and how would that be integrated should that split occur?
Well, it would be. The way we've dealt with it previously when we've come across this is we enter into a deed with the city to simply say that we'll pay a per lot fee at the time of approvals. And when the final DCP costs come out, if there's to be a makeup or a refund, it's usually a makeup, then we're subject to the additional cost to be paid in terms of that agreement.
Thank you. Through the chair, if I may, has there been any discussion in the city or any indication, and has there been any feedback from officers which help inform this?
We've done meetings with the city and the senior officers. They saw the merit in bringing the loss forward. They were hesitant in terms of they were hesitant in their council being supportive in the fact that we'd be going ahead of the wider DSP process. And their opinion was that would be up to the council, but they could see the merits in delivering some lots in the short term at an officer level.
Given the land supply situation in the corridor, Ellenbrook's finished, Averley's finished. I wouldn't have thought, whether it's 20,000 a lot or $25,000 a lot, that should hold up the bringing on of 450 lots ahead of the main game out there, which I think is probably 2 to 3 years away.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any further questions? Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Hall.
Yeah, thanks for your presentation. I'm just interested in the plan for drainage and stormwater and how you're going to manage that.
Look, the work we've done to date with the LWMS is that we've got the wetlands. They've got to have the full buffers. They'd be drained. The POS area that you saw on the plan heading south into Annie's Landing would direct any flow into that current drainage system, which Annie's Landing never had all the lots that was projected on the original structure planning. There was some buffer lots and larger lots produced around the perimeter. And so that's why the system has a little bit of capacity. The yield was never there in the final village. So both the combination of on-site and in using the capacity down in the system and landing.
The concerns that were previous speakers, are they, do you expect they'll be found in doing this development style?
Well, we put Ellenbrook on the ground over 30 years. We had one area of where we had to deal with some drainage issues over 30 years, and that was further to the east. And the balance of Ellenbrook, including Annie's Landing, we've never encountered any drainage issues on there, mainly because Ellenbrook is a bit more elevated in the area to the south. Effectively, a large majority of Ellenbrook is more giant sand.
Thank you. Members, any further questions? Thank you very much for your deputation.
This morning, also on item 0.3 in the agenda, we're welcoming Ian Humphrey back from the City of Swan. Good morning again, Ian.
Morning. Not to sound like a broken record, but thank you again for the opportunity to make a deputation on this amendment for North Ellenbrook East. Due to the confidential nature of the report, we obviously don't know if the decision of the City of Swan Council meeting on the 12th of November has been included, or whether the additional criteria for the lifting of the urban deferment was set out in the December 2024 EPA referral response has been included within the recommendation. We will assume that it has, but we would like to just the opportunity to reiterate points 2 and 4 of that determination. Firstly, we recommend that the entire resource enhancement wetland, UFI 13387, an associated buffer be included as regional open space to allow holistic protection of this wetland. Secondly, we support the EPA position on both the formalisation of the proposed expanded local reserve areas and the identification of potential additional POS areas to be included as additional criteria for the lifting of the urban deferment. That said, the city has not been party to any discussions over the designation, acquisition or management of such local reserves and the potential addition of POS areas, particularly for the purposes of conservation. Thank you again for the opportunity, and I'm happy to answer any questions if required.
Thank you very much, Ian. Members, are there any questions of Ian? Ian, would you like to provide any comment on the deputation that we've just heard from Hatch and LWP in relation to lots 29 and 30?
I guess the city's response has always been that urban deferred is the preferred option. That is sound and proper and orderly planning for that area. The city is progressing its community infrastructure plan for that area, as part of some of that work. But I guess the city's position has always been that it should be urban deferred. Work through some of these future items that need to be addressed holistically.
Okay, thank you, Ian. Any other questions for Ian? Thank you very much for your deputation.
The next deputation this morning, also on item 4.3, we're working with Daniel Martinovich and Scott Van.
Thank you for the opportunity to present to the Commission this morning. CLE is the proponent for the amendment, and on behalf of our client has worked with the state government for the last 7 years to progress the planning for North Ellenbrook East. Progression of the amendment is a significant milestone, and our attendance today is to show our support for the proposal and assist with any questions the Commission may have. Since the amendment was first initiated, we've worked to address the conditions of urban deferment as per the advertised version. One of the key requirements for the lifting of urban deferment is the funding of water and wastewater headworks. This matter has and is being progressed, and we're confident that infrastructure coordination and funding can be progressed in the short term and within a time frame that can enable subdivision to connect to the Tonkin Highway interchange, which is expected to commence construction later this year. We therefore request that the Commission progresses the amendment, enabling the remainder of the complex amendment process to be completed over the coming months. This will provide certainty for infrastructure agencies and the proponent to progress the more detailed planning for the first stages of development. Just touching on some of the submissions we've heard this morning, we've obviously heard some objections on environmental grounds. Issues raised relate primarily to environmental management responses rather than zoning considerations. The MRS is a basic zoning plan that identifies either urban land or regional reserves. The reality, however, is that the proposal is supported by detailed reporting and is preceded by an approved district structure plan that provides the foundation for the rezoning. The district structure plan was approved by the Commission in 2022 and contains additional local reserves that coincide with known vegetation, wetlands and waterways to be retained and protected. It's also supported by an approved district water management strategy that addresses groundwater and surface water management. The Environmental Protection Authority provided detailed advice on this amendment, which we are currently in the process of implementing through a separate planning instrument. This has involved further meetings and correspondence with the EPA to ensure its advice is reflected in the more detailed planning framework that will follow the region's scheme amendment process. North Ellenbrook East has been comprehensively planned, and the MRS amendment for the Commission today is the next step in the sequential planning process to progress the land for its intended purpose. I'd like to thank you for your time this morning, and we'd be pleased to answer any questions that the Commission may have.
Thank you very much, Daniel and Scott. Commission members, are there any questions? Commissioner Brooks.
Yeah, just in relation to the district water management strategy and concerns that we've heard from the community around groundwater level rises. The modelling that's presented in the district water management strategy, the modelling, it talks about the reuse of subsoil drainage water for irrigation site. Is that a real prospect still? And if it's not, has the groundwater modelling also considered a scenario where that doesn't occur and the management of potential groundwater
level rises to the surrounding community?
Yes, thank you for the question. So in answer to the first limb of the question, I mean, yes, it's still an opportunity that we're very keen to explore in terms of the recharge and the harvesting of the non-potable irrigation. Obviously, as most people are aware, non-potable water licenses in this corridor are scarce. And so we're keen to explore every option we can to obtain more water. In terms of modelling, considering an outcome where that isn't the case, yes, that has been considered. Perhaps what wasn't made public as part of the consultation process for the MRS amendment was that obviously we were cognizant of the environmental sensitivities of the site and the assessment that the EPA would put this process under. So we also prepared a more detailed groundwater modelling assessment as well as an eco-hydrological impact assessment to basically determine that there wouldn't be any impacts outside the DSP area in terms of groundwater rise, that it can be managed suitably.
Thank you, Commissioner Herron.
Thank you. Well, I think Commissioner Brooks eloquently put the core issue around the water management. However, can I also ask, one, whether you hold a view in relation to the two lots cited previously in relation to urban versus urban deferred? And secondly, if you're able to perhaps talk to, I understand that there's a management component to that, but the issue around the flora and fauna component, and particularly the bridge, and how that has been considered in the process, and whether you see that that is able to be managed through appropriate regimes.
Thank you for the question. The first one, in terms of the proposal for those two lots that are urban, that landowner would seek to progress their land directly to urban without proceeding first through urban deferment. That part of the plan was initially identified as the first stage for those exact reasons, that it was frontal to Ellenbrook, that it had access off Maralla Road. The first iteration of the district structure plan that we lodged planned for the first stage to be actually at the intersection of Sawpit Road and Maralla Road, which is on the southern boundary. Through the assessment process, we were required to alter the staging approach for the DSP such that the first stages would have access to the interchange and Tonkin Highway. That was a result of the road network in that southeast corner of the plan not being designed to accommodate the additional traffic. I haven't seen the traffic work that's been done by that proponent, but that was the reason why the staging of the DSP was changed before final adoption. The second question within that was the fauna bridge. Obviously, the Maralla Reserve is south of Maralla Road. It's primary regional reserve, and it's also covered by Bush Forever site. This amendment doesn't seek to alter the ecology of that reserve and the Bush Forever site. And to my knowledge, there's no identified ecological linkages through the DSP area. Some of the land in closest proximity to that is cleared for horse agistment as well as a turf farm. So there are uses in there that aren't necessarily conducive to fauna habitat. The reference to the black cockatoo foraging, that was a comment that came through in the EPA's advice on the amendment. So subsequent to that, we are actually looking at doing a revision to that plan to identify and pick up additional areas of black cockatoo habitat, and overall the quantum of that will be significant compared to what's in the plan now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Thank you for the deputation today. Members, that concludes our verbal deputations today. We have received one written deputation on this same item, the MRS amendment for North Ellenbrook. That is from Michelle Davies of the Ellen Brockman Integrated Catchment Group, who is against the recommendation. So just noting that has been included in our agenda package today. We would normally now move to non-confidential items for discussion, decision or noting, but today we have none. The items that we are dealing with today are of a confidential basis, so I will now have to ask that we move to confidential session, and I thank all of the deputies for your attention today. If I could please have a mover and seconder. Thank you very much. Moved by Commissioner Harmon and Commissioner Commissioner Herron. Commissioner Herron and seconded by Commissioner Hall. Is there